I was playing baseball in Texas, and that came to a crashing halt due to health and financial reasons, was a major fork in the road for me. Started to find my feet, found a crew to sit with and hang out with, and then I got really sick and had a heart attack. I went from a tiny school of 20 kids to a high school of 1,200, and then to go into a school where I knew nobody, got picked on heavily, not wanting to get out of bed, not wanting to fight anymore.
What did you do to come out of that sort of mindset back then? And how's that changed now?
Yeah, I think firstly,
Michael Crossland was diagnosed with stage 4 neuroblastoma at 11 months old. Michael was given a 4% chance of survival. He was also then the sole survivor of the cancer drug trial where 24 other children passed away in the space of 90 days. Despite these challenges, he's forged a remarkable career as an elite sports person, accomplished businessman, and one of the most sought after inspirational speakers in the world. How would you recommend that someone goes about finding their why?
Big question. I think that if we can get out of bed every single day and do something that our future self will be proud of, I think that slowly but surely leans us towards our why.
How do you manage that balance, that duality between your both parts of your mission?
What a question. For me, I guess.
Michael, your story is one of inspiration, of gratitude, of courage, of hope, and a massive journey of contribution right throughout your life. And what's really been interesting, I feel like I've resonated with so much as I've come to know you better before we get into this chat today, is how you are balancing the duality of your missions that you have right now. One of them to make as much impact as you can on as many people around the world to positively help them transform their lives with your messages of hope, whilst also being an amazing father, amazing husband, and looking after your health so you can be there as much as you can for that child part of the journey that's now beautifully part of your life. Now, like myself, I had those sort of thoughts when I've had an offer to exit our group of companies or to just live off our investments and be more of our kids' life whilst also pursuing my own mission. And that duality is something that I've just had to learn to start managing as I've sort of become more self-aware over the last few years. How do you manage that balance, that duality between your both parts of your mission?
What a opening question. That's a big one to kick off today.
It's probably the only one to get a long intro on.
It's only early morning. Hey, firstly, thank you for the opportunity to be here, and thank you for those beautiful words. And yeah, I really mean it when I say that I am just an ordinary Aussie. I'm just an ordinary bloke who's faced my fair share of kicks and now very, very grateful to live the life that I get to live. And I think also often those that have faced extreme darkness and pain and suffering and challenges like yourself, we have a leg up over many others that have had an easy life because we realize that it could be so much worse. And the challenges that we face give us that element of resilience and courage and grit that inspire us ourselves to be able to achieve some great things. So for me, I guess to get the balance right has been a great challenge, obviously. And obviously there's areas to myself that I think I fail in every day. But I think that I'm a guy that puts my hand up and says, you know, that I am failing, that I didn't do good there, I could do better. But I really think that it starts with me first. Like, I'm a man of great faith, and God certainly has carried me through some horrific challenges. And I think that to be able to get me right first so that I can serve other people, so that I can be a great dad, that I can be a great husband, that I can be a great leader, I can, you know, try and get the balance right between wanting to serve by sharing my story and serve my kids in my orphanage, and then be able to be that humble, present dad at home and a husband that just truly admires and loves my wife is something that is ongoing progress and ongoing commitment, but it's something that I think is a remarkable, enjoyable gift and challenge all in the same mouthful.
I like that. And it's well articulated mouthful there as well. I can tell that there's a very deliberate, intentional sort of way about how you approach decisions in your life. Now, one of those decisions that I've had a number of times over the years is which causes to put my time and focus into. And we were talking before about, you know, charitable causes. I've done a lot of stuff with Children's Cancer Institute, for example, or Fred Hollow's Foundation. And once you get on that circuit of raising money or emceeing events or whatever it might be, you're kind of getting a lot of calls. And if you throw in that, the inspirational speaker, the paid to speak, the coaching and stuff like that you do, the calls mount up and up. And I imagine it compounds when you're at the sort of gravity of your message. Do you have a matrix of like what you say yes to and no to when it comes to good causes?
I think firstly, you got to learn to say no. For me, that's been a real challenge because I think if you try and be everything to everyone, you end up being no one to the ones that you love the most. And I realized that. I don't want to have a conversation with my kids via Zoom, via FaceTime. I heard this quite challenging statement the other day, and it was, by the time your child turns 12, you've spent 75% of their life with them. And that's it, and for me, I don't really care about the impact that I have on the world. I really care about the impact that I have on the legacy, and the legacy are my kids. So to be able to learn to say no has been really, really important for me. But also something that's been really important to me is, and I know we'll delve in it a little bit later, around this whole materialistic wealth and the driver to actually obtain that, especially when I was in the banking sector. But I don't know how much I get paid to do a gig in America, and to do a gig in New Zealand, to do a gig in Melbourne. I want to keep it at arm's length. I want the invoice to go out from my team and the money to come in from those events, and me not knowing, because the last thing I want to do is not give 110% of myself because someone's not paying me the same, or I'm doing it for free, or it's a charity event. I want to make sure that what you see is what you get. You get all of me every single time. And for that, I'm really proud of, and I think that to be that present person on stage, to be the present auctioneer, the present MC, whatever it is, but to make sure that even when you're having a conversation with somebody, when you're in the street, when, you're having a sales call, when you're coaching, I don't want somebody to think that I'm distracted. That's why I always like to put my phone, in my pocket, not on the table. And even if it is on the table, it's always face down. We have a phone drawer at home because I never want to have my kids see me distracted. My challenge is for my kids to never see me on my phone. I remember seeing that picture of a man prior to me having a child, and I know we'll share the challenges that we had there, but I remember it was a picture of a man in a really nice suit, and he had a really fancy watch, and he was looking at his phone, and this little boy was just looking up at him, and it said, "If only I was my daddy's phone, I'd finally get some attention."
Yeah.
I can't be that guy. I'm never going to be that guy.
Yeah, I can tell about how much you really mean that too. Because sometimes we have to imagine what we're not going to be to create enough space for who we have the potential to be. And that is a tough thing that I know a lot of aspirational people have. Now,
can I just jump in? Because you said something there that really resonates with me, and hopefully everybody listening.
Yeah.
Often we strive to not only admire, but implement the traits of others that we think are impressive. But I think just as important, we need to acknowledge the traits of others that we do not find powerful, we do not find effective, we do not find inspiring, to ensure that we do not implement those traits and behaviors in our life. So to your point, sometimes it's often powerful to identify what you do not want to become as opposed to what you want to become, so you make the right choices.
Yeah, like an anti-goal.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So we have I want to have this, but not at the cost of this.
Yeah,
for example.
To-stop lists are amazing. I'm a big fan of to-stop lists.
Yeah.
A lot of people got to-do lists. I'm a to-stop list guy, because that means that your brain doesn't feel like it's filling up with more things to do. It's actually deleting things that you don't need to do anymore. And for that, I really have found great clarity in being able to hit the mark where I need to.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to approach a period of time in front of you, especially if it's already been designated for having choice or freedom.
Yeah.
To be able to approach a list of things you could do rather than things you should do.
Yeah.
Now, I feel like a lot of your life is this purpose-driven, must do. It's not because someone else is telling you that they must do it, but you just feel this sense of, I must do this. This is too important not to. Now, before we go on to the impact that you are making right now, just take us to one of the moments that you've had that have been where you questioned everything and wondered about whether it was worth continuing on. I know you've had a few big bumps in the journey. For example, one of the ones when your sports career was nearly cut short quite quickly, early on.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been a lot of a lot of challenges, a lot of character building moments. I'm very much a language guy. I'm very mindful of the words that I speak because I know that has a huge impact on our mental state of mind. But yeah, obviously when I was playing baseball in Texas and that came to a crashing halt due to health and financial reasons was a major fork in the road for me. Not wanting to get out of bed, not wanting to fight anymore. Probably to go back even further when I was 12, to finally have almost found my place at school. I was lost. I went from a tiny school of 20 kids to a high school of 1,200. And then to go into a school where I knew nobody, got picked on heavily, and then finally started to find my feet, found a crew to sit with and hang out with, and then I got really sick and had a heart attack, as you shared in the intro. I finally felt almost what normality was. And to go way back, my dream as a little boy was firstly to be normal like everybody else. That was it. I didn't want to be a policeman, a fireman, a real estate guru, a coach, a speaker. I just wanted to be a normal guy. I want to go to school. I want to make friends. I want to enjoy the things that people take for granted.
Yeah.
And it's funny, because Mum said back in those days, that dream's not big enough. You imagine now trying to tell your child that dream that they're telling you they want to be a YouTuber or they want to be a gamer.
My daughters are talking about that.
That's not big enough, and she taught me such a valuable lesson that if it doesn't stretch you, if it doesn't challenge you, you're never going to amount to the best version of yourself. So then for me to push through that and have that big dream of playing baseball in America. But I remember very clearly 12 years old, heart attack, laying in hospital, thinking life's not fair. And then I got this card, and it was a get well card from all the kids at school. And there was kids on there that I didn't even think knew that I even existed, it just felt amazing to me. And then I still remember this one line, and it was, hope you die, from Steve. And I still know Steve to this day very well, right? And he's a big dude. But,
are you mates with Steve?
But he's bigger than me, so yeah, we're great mates. But it was almost like everything on that sheet of paper dissolved. There was not another message.
From that one?
Everything on that card, get well, I can't wait to see you again, that was all gone. And it's amazing how our subconscious mind delves deeply into the negative things that happen in our life. But I realize now that those negatives that happen in our life actually can enable us to walk a path that we never would have walked before. And the courage that instills in us to enable us to achieve great things in life. Maybe that's the motivation. Like you said, people are never going to tell you what you can do. They're only going to tell you what you can't. And maybe that moment, those defining moments in our lives that we all have could possibly be what transforms the outcome of our life. And we fast forward to 2010 and I was in the banking sector and, I had the fancy cars and the fancy clothes and the jewelry, and I created the perception of what I thought success was because I lived way beyond my means because I wanted people to think that I was better than what I really was because I grew up in that poor environment and I didn't want to be in that space. And then to get to that point where bacterial meningitis, fluid on the brain, Bell's palsy, had to learn to walk again, talk again. I was at that place, like you said. I didn't want to fight anymore. I thought that life wasn't fair.
This when that happened, right? This is when you were trying to build this external perception of success, right? With the assets and the high-flying lifestyle.
Self-validation.
I see this so much, and it's actually a big part of why I started on this flow zone journey with this sort of pod that we can sort of have really free-ranging combos rather than being structured for one niche or one kind of people. Our audience are very much aspirational people that want to improve their lives holistically, not just with the extrinsic motivators. And I've seen it time and time again. A couple of places in Australia, it's prevalent, like you see a lot of the toys, a lot of the bling, whether it's the eastern suburbs of Sydney or whether it's the Gold Coast. It's not saying everyone there is like that, but it's just so available to people to conjure up, well, that must be what success is like, or it must at least be present. And then you've found that is not what success looks like. So what did you do to come out of that sort of mindset back then? And how's that changed now?
Yeah, I think firstly, it's very important that we clarify that the materialistic wealth and materialistic possessions, they're all fine. They're all good. Ferraris, Lambos, the multi-million-dollar houses, that's great. If that's what you've achieved, congratulations. But what I think is the deterrent in many people's mindsets is the fact that they strive to achieve these things in their life for self-validation. They strive to have the nice car so people can say, wow, you must be successful. And I realized for me that to accomplish some of those achievements, not that I'm rolling in a Ferrari or a Lambo or, a Bentley, but it's amazing to achieve those things. But if you're driving those cars because you just want people to say you're amazing, then what's going to happen is you're going to end up being alone and empty, because that stems to be so much deeper than what we perceive. It's not about, it becomes a validation about our looks. It becomes a validation about our self-worth and our self-importance. And for me, I think that moment in my life was probably one of the greatest moments of my life, because I think the two greatest days in one's life is the day that we are born and the day that we discover why we are born. And often, we discover our why in our darkest moments. We need to have our backs against the wall. We need to be in a place where there is only one place to go. And that taught me so much about identifying what I truly wanted in life. And, I was sharing with you before, it's remarkable to be able to achieve great things in your life. And I remember the day that I bought my wife her dream car. It was a joyous moment for me. But what was incredible is many years prior to that, I would drive around the main street trying to find the park right out the front so everybody could see the car that I was driving.
Because you wanted to show that.
Because I wanted to show that.
Yeah.
That's right. Even though I felt lost and alone inside.
Yeah.
And then I finally buy Mel her dream car, and we drive and park 3 streets away.
So, stop on that one, because I reckon this is part of, you are a humble person naturally. You've gone through that phase there where you've gone, I need to show this thing. I've gone to the trouble of getting it. I might as well now make it work for me. But now you've gone in that sort of period of time to actually hiding it. Now that tall poppy syndrome thing, like that can be there for any form of success, right? It's not just for financial success. How do you deal with tall poppy syndrome?
Yeah, we'll bounce back to the car. So please don't let me, because I need to close the loop on that. But I was on a TV show in America called Ridiculousness on MTV. And Rob Dyrdek, maybe some people listening have heard it before. It's like the week that I was on, they were plucking the barrel empty because they got the really cool guests at the beginning. And then I would Justin Bieber was on first. And then Jerry Springer was on, then Snoop Dogg, and then to round out the week was this random bloke from Australia that no one had ever heard of, me.
This Aussie bloke.
It was fun and great, we had millions and millions of people watching it, and they play it every 3 or 4 months again. They replay it on MTV, and you get 200 extra followers on Instagram, and they're all 15, 16-year-old girls, so it's really not my target market, right? But I remember I was walking down Beverly Hills and someone says, oh man, we saw you on that show. You were amazing. Such a great story, right? Because they let me share a bit of the story as well.
Yeah.
And then I walked down the main street of my hometown in Australia, and I see a guy and he goes, oh, Mr. MTV, Mr. Big Shot, and then walks off, doesn't even say hello. And it's this notion that we don't want people to succeed because it makes us feel inferior. And I think that when we can just turn our perception on that and celebrate people's wins and celebrate their success and lift people up rather than knock people down and get rid of that jealousy of other people's success and highs, I think that we start to really live the life that we're intended to lead. And to circle back to that car thing, we would park the car 3 streets away because I didn't want people to see what car I was driving because of this tall poppy syndrome and, oh, look at this guy, he's done well. And then again, I was just walking my life in the fear of what other people's opinions were of me. And then I realized finally, when I begin to value me, when I begin to invest in me, when I begin to love me, then the weight of the words of other people no longer land. And now I park the car wherever there's a space and I just don't care. And, feedback is great. Sometimes it's going to hurt. Sometimes it's going to feel amazing. But at the end of the day, you're not going to the whole world's not going to ever love you. Not every single person. And I'm finally at a place now that I'm okay with that. I want the people that I love the most to love me.
Yeah.
I want the people that I love the most to be proud of me and want to be around me and celebrate my successes and celebrate my wins, but also be there when I fall over. And all the rest of the people that we think are important, we really discover slowly but surely that they're not.
It's a much smaller list than we think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really compelling, Michael. I feel like that a big part of your mission has been to get messages like that to people that aren't already in a dire situation. Like we had that conversation about Why do we need to wait for there to be a life-threatening situation? Why do we need to wait for a marriage to break down or for us to hit some kind of burnout? Why can we not make it the mission itself?
Yeah.
And actually get clear on those goals. And the intentionality that you've created around who do I want to be on this earth, like, you know, and you're a man of the faith and have really got clear on how you want to show up. So it creates this little circle that you need to serve. And then the goals that are outside of that, the opinions, I've come to do this as well. The opinions that we take on board are only ones that are going to serve that goal.
Yeah.
Now, I've heard you say this before, that you measure everything you do in your life about whether it's adding value or taking away from it. Talk us through that.
Well, first, I just want to touch on your decluttering has been a game changer for me.
Right.
You know, we declutter our closet, we declutter our mess at home, but sometimes we need to declutter our friends.
Yes.
You know, we need to realize those that are holding us back, that are preventing us from being the best versions of ourselves. And I think that when we can, you know, that old saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend most of your life with. When was the last time that you just did an average score out of 10 of the 5 people you spend most of your life with? And if you start to do that and you've got a couple of 2s in there, a couple of 3s, all of a sudden your score is a 5 or a 6. And are you okay to live your life as a 5 or a 6? And what I realize is you are going to outgrow people. And when someone says you've changed, to me, that's a great compliment. Because if I haven't changed through the battles and through the fire and through the refinement and through the investment and the education, I would be worried that I hadn't changed. So for me, success, back to your point, is about knowing that I can get out of bed every single day and make a difference in somebody else's life. You know, my success radar is based on the impact that I can have. And if that results in a really nice house and a beautiful car, then that's just an outcome of hard work and dedication and a commitment to the cause. But for me, I really want to make sure that I go home of a night time and my wife holds me and she's proud of who I am, and my kids look up to me with admiration, and I can just ultimately be the best dad that I possibly can be, and not just leave a legacy, but, you know, I'm still alive and I shouldn't be. So I want to live into that legacy. You know, we mentioned earlier that they're doing a movie on me at the moment, and one of the lines that I share in that is that when my daughter was born, my health was character building. And I remember saying, I just want to be healthy enough to walk her to school. Like, that's what that was my goal. You know, I just wanted to achieve that. And now, you know, I'm very, very focused on my morning routine, my ice baths, my sauna, my prayer and my meditation and the food that I eat and all that stuff. So now the line is not, I want to be healthy enough to walk my daughter to school. I want to be healthy enough to walk my daughter down the aisle.
Yeah, that is such a bigger range goal to set.
It changes everything because it's a stretch goal, which means I need to be mindful of what I eat. I need to be mindful of what I consume. You know, I'm mindful of what I'm listening to. I'm mindful of what I'm watching on TV, if I'm watching anything. I want to educate and upskill and nurture and inspire this mind and this body and this soul and this being, because it's the only one that I've got. And more importantly, I want to be around to see my kids achieve some great things.
Yeah, well, the way that you are, the conviction that you're living this with, Michael, I actually feel a sense of belief there that the universe and God, as you deem it, is going to conspire to help line that path up.
Yeah.
This contribution you've been making, the impact continues regardless of whether you're on stage or not. Like, you're a best-selling author. You decided the profits of one of the books was there to help your daughter get a leg up and your mum get a house, but you know, now that you're still alive, that's still continuing to contribute.
Yeah. The goal was to support my wife and my mum because I wasn't meant to make it. And then once we got through that first surgery back in 2016, it was, no, let's donate all the money to different charities. And, you know, it makes my heart feel good. And I think that we need to practice what we preach. We need to walk the talk. And I get up there about serving other people, and then I'm trying to flog a book off the back of a presentation or on my website to make more money, and that's not it. You know, the importance is hopefully the words in that book can inspire people to lead a better life and be a better mum, better dad, better friend, but also knowing that, you know, we were told we'd never be able to have kids, and you know that has been an exceptionally painful, character building, beautiful, humbling perspective journey. But to have the orphanage over there with 44 kids that we look after, and to see the transformation they've had, and then to have the miracle of our own children in 2017, which was, as you know, a great battle.
Yeah, well, that's something, and we might share a bit of that with our listeners now, if that's okay. Yeah. I know it's I know it's quite emotional, but this is one of the things when you get close to a cause. Your own cause was running already. But, I found this with Children's Cancer Institute myself. When you get to see those kids and you get to hug those kids, and then some of those kids aren't there anymore, and then we had a similar thing in our family where my cousin lost his son to childhood leukemia. And, when it becomes part of your own family, and I just couldn't even imagine what was going through Steve and his wife's mind during it. And it was during COVID as well. So we weren't able to get really close. So to hear this like miracle of you that you've been able to have a kid when you're basically told you can't, in 5 years of IVF for the first one, and then to run into some challenges on that, just could you tell us about what went on there?
Yeah, I think that one of the messages that I like to share on stage is that it's the people outside the bed that hurt far more than those that are sitting in it. It was challenging as a little boy, being burnt from head to toe and vomiting and, wrapped up in bandages and laying us in bars full of ice, trying to prevent our brains from frying, all those sort of things. It's tough, but what's so much harder than that is having my mum sit on the outside of that bed watching, feeling helpless. And in 2017, I got a chance to feel what helpless was. He's all good though, which is amazing. It's just reliving it is such a tough thing. So he was due to arrive into our world, little Lockie James, in end of February 2018. But my wife went into labour at 29 weeks, and it was tough. Early. So he was born 11 weeks early. He was put into a glass container and taken away from us in a plastic bag. And then we were told that he had a horrible illness called sepsis. We were told we had only 5 days with him. And what was amazing about that time is I lived at Ronald McDonald House for 4 years as a sick little boy. And 30 years later, I was living at Ronald McDonald House with my own sick little boy. And it was just this full circle moment of finally realizing the depth of pain that my family felt and the courage that they must have had to withstand that onslaught, but also to have that grit to never quit and never give up was, for me, so eye-opening, but so inspiring all at the same time. And then to finally be able to take him home was incredible. And yes, we've had more challenges along the way where his eye turned, so they thought he had a brain tumor, and the fear of that and the operation to get his eye turned back in, and the scans were all clear, and the relief that was. I think a lot of people, when they face challenges, can walk away from faith because they think their life's not fair. But I realize that, I've been carried through the depth of great darkness, and for that I'm just so eternally grateful to know, God, and to know Jesus, our Savior, and for that I'm just, I'm so blessed.
Yeah, it's
and then to have a beautiful little girl during COVID, that was awesome. She's an absolute firecracker. She is wild. She's just like a mum. Hopefully Mel doesn't watch this. I'm sure she will. So I'm in trouble. I'm in the doghouse.
She watches it as well.
I'm sure she will.
Even though you've been on a few interviews, there's different topics going each place, and I know you credit Mel so much.
Yeah,
and you just every time that I've gotten to know you better, the family is just in the center of it, and just how you can have this journey that you've been on be meaningful to your family as well, and to carry that legacy forward. And I suppose that's what's transcending out to the rest of the universe now as well.
Thank you, mate.
So how do you then go from this person I'm looking at now that really feels to me like very self-actualized, like you've been on this journey, you've become very self-aware, and now you've sort of you've figured out your place in the world, the day you're born, and then the day that you learn why you're on the planet. Now that you know why you're on the planet, what does that look like in the next, say, decade, as you've had such success in Haiti with the orphanage, and there's a goal to actually place people in their homes over there and get them working in the community. What lies beyond what you're in the middle of right now?
I think being acutely aware of the opportunities to serve others for me is a real key focus. Every opportunity I can to be able to help people. I think that, as I think we touched on maybe this morning, but we spoke about the negative words register 40 times more effectively than positive words.
Yeah.
So we need to be acutely aware of what we're saying. But for me, it's about what I'm thinking and feeling as well. So I have my coaching clients, and we talk about this gratitude every single morning, the 3 things that they're grateful for. They send them to me and I send them to them. And
I love gratitude. Gratitude's a gateway to abundance.
I agree, right? But it also enlightens or opens our mindset to be acutely aware of opportunities to serve other people. So, for example, we just discovered 2 weeks ago that one of the schools in my local area, 75% of that school is under the poverty line. We live in a very affluent area right on the beach, and it's a beautiful part of the world. But 10 minutes west of there, it's tough going. And, the communities there are really doing it tough. So we found out through our pastor at church and a friend of ours that these kids are showing up to school with a packet of chips. That's it. That's what they eat.
Where is this school?
In Coffs Harbour.
Wow.
And I was just completely blown away. And I did a 2-day fast a couple of weeks ago, and it was frustrating, and I was short and a little bit temperamental. And I'm thinking, imagine why these kids are not engaged and not doing their schoolwork and disconnected. So it's easy to go, all right, that's fine. I'm glad that my kid doesn't go there. Or it's what can I do to help? And now we do meals with Mike. So on a Wednesday, every second Wednesday, I go in and just cook up a big feed for 250 kids. And it's just sausage sandwiches, and it's some fruit, and it's a bottle of water. And then we go, okay, this is not sustainable. Like I can't just keep paying for 250 meals every fortnight. I got bills to pay. I look after my mum and my kids and education and schooling and travel and all those sort of things. And then I realized that I've done a lot of speaking and connected with some great people. So there's some CEO friends of mine that are in that food space, and now all of a sudden we get some meat, and we get some bread, and we get some fruit, and we get some water, and now they can help contribute. And now the outlay is a lot less, but I'm still being able to have that moment of knowing that I'm serving others. And it's not about, well, look at me, I'm helping these kids. It's more about what is it that happens in your life every day that you could actually lean into to actually step forward and make an impact. And you talk about all the chemicals that get released, the dopamine, the serotonin, all the good stuff that makes us feel good about ourselves. That gives us greater clarity, and that gives us that vision of what does 10 years look like for me. My 10 years looks like being a great dad, a great husband, and a great server. I want to be able to serve people every single day and make other people's lives better whilst making my own better as well.
That is the impact point there for so many people that are going to hear this message, Michael. This is that impact point there, that you've decided who you want to be and why you're on the planet. And now you're looking for every opportunity whilst being that person to serve more.
Yeah.
And it's really the essence of what an interdependent community is all about, that we can all, serve ourselves and our families in our own right, but by just being in each other's lives, we are actually serving each other, and we're having a compounding effect. This is probably why I resonate with you so much. Like a lot of the time I've had a need of something to do in myself, like, outdoor fitness, for example. I wanted to get out of the gym in the morning because I was finding I was resenting the morning routine, getting in the car, turning up to a gym where people were generally quite cranky and not talking to each other, getting all sweaty, getting in the car and going back to work through traffic, and I thought, well, what if I could start the day somewhere local that's outdoors where I'm getting the nature in regardless. And then we could serve a local cafe by buying our food or drink there afterwards, and that would support them. And I would be seen in my marketplace by people on a more human level rather than being in my suit all the time.
Yeah.
And I could help other people build a community that aren't as extroverted. So I saw all these compound benefits, and I thought, well, it's actually for me, but it's actually for everyone at the same time.
Yeah.
And as soon as I hear what you're talking about, just with the school thing, like that's in your neighborhood, it's in your sphere of influence, and now you've created a legacy. Yeah. Those other people get to feel that benefit too.
Yeah, yeah. And you hope that that's a generational change as well. My thought is they eat the food, now they're a little bit more energized, they've got a little bit more clarity. They actually maybe think that someone cares about them, which is huge. And then they go back into their classroom and they do their schoolwork. So now they're connected, they're educated, and they feel as though they're cared for. Now all of a sudden the engagement factor's there. now maybe the generational cycle changes. They go home to unemployment, to sadness, to brokenness, and they feel like they're nurtured, and maybe they give themselves the credibility and that opportunity to transform their lives and do something differently. And it's just this little drop in the ocean, but the ripple effect could be huge.
That ripple effect is what true givers live for, I believe.
Yeah.
I've got this phrase I use that, the true definition of giving is without any expectation of receiving. And it sounds like what you're doing is you're dropping a pebble in the pond, and you don't need to be there to see which shores it washes up on and whether it's got your name on it.
Yeah, I hear you. The two greatest phrases for me around giving is anonymous to anonymous is the greatest form of giving, and that we must give without remembering and receive without forgetting.
Yeah.
We must give without remembering. So just give freely and passionately. And it's of our time. And if we're in a position of our money, of our energy, of our love, of our connection, and then obviously receive without forgetting. Don't ever forget those that have given us the hand out, the hand up, the leg up, whatever it has been in the past to be able to serve us. And maybe we can return the favor if we can.
Yeah. Well, we are returning the favor, because in the true universal concept of oneness, that we are all still made of the same atoms.
Yeah.
So when we give to someone else, we're actually giving to ourselves anyway.
Yeah.
But we don't have to ask for something to come back, because it's just naturally happening.
I think if we touch, and I'm very mindful of time, so I appreciate whatever time we've got. You just keep me on track.
Yeah.
But that giving thing, to me, that's the way I have dealt with depression in the past. That's the way I've dealt with darkness and sadness and pain and suffering, is selfishly. I know that it's selfishly good to give. Yeah. I know that if I give to somebody, I'm going to feel better about myself. It's not an ego thing.
Yeah.
That's long gone now.
Yeah.
It's actually chemically going to make me feel better about myself. So when I'm doing it a little tough, when times are a little character building, because I love that phrase.
Yeah.
As you've heard, I think, where can I help somebody? Is that I go to Woolworths and it's, I'm getting some groceries, and there's a little old lady in front, and she's getting $22 worth of groceries, and she's pulling out coins out of her purse, and you just go boop and pay for that, and she starts to cry, and it's not for any other reason, but you feel good.
Yeah.
And selfishly, it makes you pump the tires up a little bit for yourself.
Yeah.
And you get to lean into today with a little bit more energy and enthusiasm and brightness.
I love that. I love doing it with like Uber drivers, when you're, just to tip someone, and you can give them a little comment afterwards or something like that, but don't tell them you're going to tip. Just little tiny things like that you've said.
Yeah.
The paying for an old lady's groceries, or even just paying for it and then leaving before anyone knows who it was.
Yeah. But there's a lot of people today, I'm sure, watching, and they say, well, it's easy for you to say because you got money. I'll do that when I get to that place. I used to do the fuel thing. I used to pay for your fuel, and then you'd go in to pay for the fuel, and they go, oh, that guy over there paid for it. And then you look at me and go, oh, thank you. And then I go, no worries. And then I realized the only reason why I was paying for your fuel was because I wanted to be thanked.
Yeah.
So it was the wrong reason to pay for fuel. Now I pay for people's fuel and I drive off, and I feel like a little rebel, but what I think is really important is you don't have to wait until you're in a position financially to be able to serve people to make a positive impact. It might be simply writing a text message to some friends in your phone that you haven't communicated with in a while, just to let them know how much they mean to them, because that could change their life. That could save their life. It might be paying a compliment to somebody walking past. Oh, geez, your smile really lightened up my day today. Thank you for smiling. What a great outfit. Whatever it is, your hair looks amazing. Whatever it is, it can be just something so free, yet so powerful for them, which is going to make you feel amazing as well.
Yeah, well, if you're breathing, then you have an opportunity to give.
Yeah, and I think an obligation too.
An obligation.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think on a human level, we sort of do feel that subconsciously in ourselves anyway. What I wanted to really help our listeners understand here and viewers is that the things that you're saying here, Michael, are leaving clues about how intentional you are at setting yourself up to give. And this is the thing about what you've just said before, like, when I've got money, I'll do this. Or you made a comment about how you've got someone that looks after your book sales and your bookings because you don't want to be focused on the money and business side of it. You know it needs to exist so you can pay for it. But it's not like you've just thrown the keys over your shoulder and said, oh, handle all that, and you've been irresponsible. Like, at some point you've been consulted about what revenue's coming in, about what revenue you need to do in speaking to be able to make the charities that every cent gets sent, and to be able to still have enough time to be there as that loving husband, that loving father, and look after your health. So there's a budget that goes on, even in the lives of people that are self-actualized and living the exact life they want. So I'd urge our listeners not to judge when they see someone that looks financially successful giving, because they could still be on the knife's edge of what they've got available to give financially because of how much they've put into everything else.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a real process that people need to go through for that. So do you have any kind of rhythm of when you sit down and review your kind of more long-range goals so that when you get back into daily life, you can just be present?
It's funny that you say that, and because I'm not going to give you the answer that you're wanting.
That's okay.
I don't think that anybody at home is going to expect this answer either. You know, you talk about flow zone. I needed to get in the flow.
Yeah.
I need to get in that flow. That
What does flow mean to you?
Flow means a state of mind that enables you to feel good, just quite simply. You know, and I believe that when we truly visualize what we want and we are very strategic with what we think and what we do and how we act, we manifest what we want to achieve.
Agreed.
Like I'm a big manifestation guy. I'm not a long-term guy either.
Okay.
I don't have a 10-year plan.
That's okay.
I don't have a 5-year plan. I have a today plan.
Yeah.
And that's it. I want to make sure that today I show up and I'm present and I'm yours. Every day I set an intention of what I want to be, who I want to become. That is my today focus. Financially, that'll sort itself out. I really believe that I will be in a financially free place as long as I keep showing up every day, striving to serve other people. Yes, there's strategies involved, but that's individualized, but based on what you want and how you want it and what your career is and what you want your long-term future to be like. But for me, like, health has always been a major contributing factor to my inability to be able to shoot long-term goals.
Yeah.
Because it could be gone tomorrow. And like you said earlier, there's a line that I share in all my presentations, and it is, don't wait until it's too late before you decide to change. Don't wait until you're diagnosed with lung cancer before you stop smoking. Don't wait until you lose someone that you love before you tell them that you love them. And that's, for me, that's how I really live my life. I'm not striving to get, you know, the whatever it is in 10 years' time. I'm striving to make sure that I get to get home on Thursday night and take 4 days rest and just leave my phone in the top drawer and have my kids look into my eyes and not look at my forehead. You know, I don't want that story to ever manifest in my life where the little boy knocks on his daddy's door and says, "Hey, daddy, can we go and play catch?" And daddy constantly says over a week, "I'm busy, until eventually that little boy says, "Daddy, how much money do you earn an hour?" And daddy says, "I earn $50 an hour, and that's to put a roof over your head and food into your tummy. So get out of my office. I've got work to do." And 2 months later, that sweet little boy comes in and knocks on his daddy's door and says, "Daddy, over the last 2 months, I've done all the chores that my mum has asked of me. I've done the dishes. I've made my bed. I've even mowed the lawns and done all the pruning of the trees, and I've been able to raise $25. Daddy, I was wondering if I give you $25, could I please just have half an hour of your time? And could we please go outside and play catch?" I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be that disconnected human that is so driven by materialistic wealth that we lose everything that's important to us.
That's your anti-goal.
Yeah. So I don't have the 10-year vision. I don't have the pipeline of what I want to accomplish or achieve. All I have is this right now moment that I'm in right now. I want to serve you. I want to inspire your listeners. I want to make sure that I can bring hope and clarity in what's truly important in life. And then once this is finished, I'll go get on stage this afternoon and hopefully touch the audiences as best I can.
Yeah, Michael, I actually feel that presence. It really resonates deeply with me. And, you know, your definition of flow as being just, you know, creating the opportunity to feel good. And I see this, the presence that you are talking about. If we're looking after our health right in this moment, if we're showing up for this moment, if we're showing up to add value, then we are actually long-term planning. Because you want to be there to walk them down the aisle and beyond.
Amen.
Right? So each day we're just doing a bit more of that. And that's how flow works too. You know, like we've got a goal. The nearer term the goal, the more immediate the feedback is that we receive.
Yeah.
The more our sense of ego drops away, and yours clearly has.
Yeah.
You know, we lose our sense of self. Time dilates. I had to just take a glance and I was like, okay, bit of time's gone by because we've just been in the zone.
Yeah.
Doing this. So, yeah, Michael, as we as we sort of prepare ourselves to move on with the rest of the contribution that we're doing here, I know our listeners and viewers are going to take something really special and amazing out of this. And I suppose the message I'd like to ask you, it relates to your point around don't wait till it's too late to make these things important. And the kind of character I'm talking about here is someone whose life is pretty well put together. Like there's someone that they might be in business, they might be leading their sports team, they might be a parent that's very happy with how they run their family. They're financially okay, they're pretty healthy, you know, they're pretty well put together. And yet they still aren't quite sure if they're going to find this sort of flow in life, this sort of greater purpose that you talk about of, you know, the day we're born and then the day we find out what we're born for. How would you recommend that someone goes about finding their why?
Big question. I think that if we can get out of bed every single day and do something that our future self will be proud of, I think that slowly but surely leans us towards our why, leans us towards the flow that we need to get into. And I think that everybody is so mixed up, messed up, and lost. And I think that the more that we stop focusing on other people and the focus around comparing of our accomplishments to others, and you know that great line, I really love it, and my mind's just a little bit blank at the moment, but I love it when it's something along the lines of stop comparing your everyday life to other people's highlight reels.
Yeah.
Like we do that so often, and then we feel like we're not in a state of flow. We feel like we haven't found our purpose. We don't think that we've achieved what we are meant to achieve because we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people. And I think that, when we can get to a point where we're just grateful for the life that we live, we are grateful for the challenges that we've overcome. We are grateful that the air that we breathe, the roof that's over our head and the food that's in our tummy. Like when we get to that state, I think all of a sudden things start to flow. We find our purpose, we find our mission, we find our vision. We begin to value ourselves and love ourselves and invest in ourselves. And I think that when we get into that place, then our mind starts to really open up. We get great clarity in what we want to achieve whilst we're still here, but not looking too far forward. You know, often we are fearful of what could have been yesterday, or regretful of what could have been yesterday, fearful of what might be tomorrow. We forget to live in the present. You know, our head needs where our body's at. And when we start to really make sure that our head is right where it should be, I think that's when we find our state of flow.
I love that. It really resonates with a change bit of literature I took in recently, and it's like the head, the rational mind needs to be in line with the heart, the emotional self, and we need to shape the path so it's actually hard to walk a different one.
Yeah.
So, and that's what you're doing every day. It's what you're doing with your visualization and your manifestation. And I'm manifesting right now that this talk is going to impact the lives of millions of people, not just hundreds, not just thousands, but millions of people. It's going to be out there for the world to see and experience, and I hope that they share it far and wide because, Michael, you're a special human and you are making an impact.
Bless you, man.
Thank you.